Arnie, I want to thank you so much for taking time here at Basic in the busy schedule. I know you want to see things, and your presentation yesterday that you did about the orchestral things, that was amazing. That was a beautiful project.
It's a unique group of people. And the funny thing is that in my busiest days, when I was full time with the orchestra, I never played with any of those guys. So I only played with Alan Abel after just the year that I retired, because the Philly Orchestra went on strike, and they asked the Philharmonic to come down and do a fundraiser. So I went down there, and that was the first time I ever met him. Although, I know about him and for years and years and years, and we played that little fundraiser, and then ever since then we've been friendly, and he's so amazing. He just lays it down. I love to play side by side with him because there's no doubt about where the time is, where the beat is. He just goes bang, and you just hit it together.
And I'm really happy. Like, what happens these days is a lot of people are not exposed to orchestral music as much, and demystifying some of the things. I think the
Yeah.
idea of having some of this repertoire and the story behind it, what is actually going on, because it's not really explained in the larger audience sense,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
it's no different from being in a rock band or in a
Sure.
jazz band or in a world music thing. The orchestral thing has so much history, and an orchestral player.
But the interesting thing is most of the players that I know grew up as kid drum set players. So I never don't find it such a remove from, because I listen to jazz and bebop and funk, and, I never listen to orchestral music, if I'm at home, if I have to learn a piece or something, sure. But in terms of relaxing, in terms of listening to stuff, I listen to Tower Power and to, and all my favorite drummers, and, from the bebop era all up to the funk guys and the rap guys.
Which
And
which which makes the difference between a musician who is not so deep and someone, whether it's an orchestral situation or anything. The more you listen to, the more you give of yourself from that point of view, and your larger repertoire in your head. So when you're playing, whether it's a bass drum part or a tambourine part or triangle, what is the difference between that and a rock band and an orchestral? It's just bigger.
yeah, no, I don't find it different. And you swing or you don't swing. And if it's in an orchestra, imagine getting 100 players to groove, how hard that is. But when it happens, you could count it on two hands in a 40-year career, when all of a sudden the band clicks in, and it just is like a bulldozer going through, unstoppable.
And it's usually the percussion section that keeps its
Totally.
groove, like any band. It's the drummer,
Yeah.
the percussion that keeps the groove and keeps the excitement. It's a lot easier in a rock band because everybody's usually of the level,
Yeah.
or pays attention. I shouldn't say of the level, but pays attention to it.
But you got 4 or 5 people, right? In an orchestra, you have 9 basses. Imagine everybody bitches about the bass player, right? So you have 9 of them, trying to keep it together, trying to make something happen, you know.
Tell me something, Arnie. In your experience, and you've been, around. I mean, you've been playing music for so many years and in
Long
different
time. Yeah.
contexts, and I mean, some of the experience of you transcending from the rock drummer, percussionist, world music, for example. And I know we've had this discussion before about world music being integrated not only in the percussion of the orchestra, but in the general education, the general sense. Where did you see it coming, and where do you see it, like, where it should be or where it's going,
Well,
in your opinion?
I admire these people that have goals and, long term, short term, 20-year. I just say, oh, hell, I like to play. And it's whatever comes up, I'll do, I still do like freebie, community orchestra gigs or whatever anybody asks me to do, and it sounds like fun, I'll do it, So I don't really have any goals, and I've just been extremely lucky to have met great people and had great teachers, and had conductors, great conductors that really you learn from. And but I have absolutely no plan. You know, when I was uh, sort of starting to turn professional, I was playing in the Peekskill Symphony, you know, a one shot off, and then in the Woodstock Community Orchestra, and the City Ballet Orchestra, and the Met summer season, and club dates, you know, Jewish weddings and bar mitzvahs, and I think all of those things just contribute, rather than, you know, a sectarian kind of one. I'm only going to do this kind of music. And, you know, we were just talking to Chris Slam and I were talking yesterday to a young kid, and he was saying, you know, oh, my future this and my future that, and what should I specialize in? Should I be a marimba player, or, you know? And both of us said, don't do that. First of all, you're 22 years old, you know. Why do you want to pigeonhole yourself at this point? Just learn everything. Go play hand drums. Go study the Indian, you know, study tabla, and you know, taste everything that's around, and eventually you'll find your niche. You'll find your strengths, and you know, and you know, everybody wants to like be pigeonholed into some career.
Yeah, I guess the most important thing at that point is you really got to do what really turns you on,
Totally.
and then just do it. And forget about it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And then ultimately, that's what's going to be your success. Of those things that you really enjoy, you're going to be really good at,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, because you spent so much time. And because you don't see how much work it is, you'll be great at it.
Yep.
And then it'll just work itself out.
And then
right?
if you're not great at it, you go do something else, you know.
That's right.
And then, you know, and you
that's
enjoy
okay.
it and have it, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody wants like a career path, which is totally, you know, music is like the most chaotic, you know, profession.
Good word.
Yeah, it is, because, you know, usually you go, like if you study law or pre-law or accounting or whatever you study, a commercial kind of career, you go to when you're going to graduate, you go to a career clinic, and they explain the opportunities. You'll start at 40,000, and you know, and you work yourself up to 80,000 in 2 years or something. I mean, imagine a musician doing that. I mean, by the time I made 40,000 a year, I was like worked for a long, long time, you know, already.
Right.
So it doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah, and you really have to treat it that way. I mean, it's an individual, and everything is possible. So if you're imagination and you have the great work ethic.
Well, I think your career, I don't know that much about it, but what I know about you is totally amazing. Because, you know, no, seriously, because you've taken what you do well, including playing and the organizational, administrative, educational, and you've made it into a good life for yourself, things that you like to do. And, you know, and somebody that sits around and says, gee, I got my degree, and now what do I do with my degree, you know? And then you take other people, and they're just always like finding ways. And like another one who's great is Fernando Hashimoto.
Yes.
Because he took his doctorate with me at the Graduate Center, and he is a guy that is such a wheeler dealer is not the right word, you know what I mean? Because it has a bad connotation. But I mean a mover and shaker.
Right. Well, just making things happen, because you say,
Yeah.
listen, if this is what I'm interested in, just do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I always did. I mean, whether it's with my group Repercussion, we did all of the great things we did, but I didn't just stop there. At the same time, I enjoyed doing many other things.
Yeah.
And I just did it because I just enjoyed doing it.
Yeah,
And
you learned world music. You learned, you know, all kinds of African, Indonesian, whatever
Yeah.
direction you're going. But Dave Friedman did a clinic at Brooklyn one year, and he said the most profound thing. He said, and you know, you hear a million clinics and people say things, and you agree with or not agree with sometimes. And he said that, you know, when you're in music, you're in business for yourself. And I said, gee, I never thought of it that way, that, you know, and some people are good at that and other people are not, you know, and they're going to wait for the phone to ring, and they're going to wait for, you know, the contractor to call them, and you know, the thing is you got to play well. Yeah, which is so obvious, right? And that's the other thing, is no matter who your mom and dad are, or how influential they are, or how much money they have, you know, when you're standing up on the stage, doesn't matter, you know, how many degrees you have. The first clarinet player in the Philharmonic for 50 years, Stanley Drucker, I don't think he ever graduated high school.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
because he went to the same high school I went to, Music and Art in New York, except that he was offered, I think, Indianapolis or Minnesota when he was like 17 years old. So he never graduated high school. He just, people said, you got a gig? Go for it,
But I mean, obviously, we wouldn't want to encourage people not to finish school. Not today.
No,
I think
especially
that's-
because I teach at a college.
No, I mean, I think it's really important for people to finish
Yeah.
their education. But I mean, if they're players, I mean, you want to have. If it really interests you, just do it. But have a good education because that's important.
Sure.
Now. I mean, that's
Well,
really
now it's
important.
changed because now they require degrees, and you want to do some teaching, and you want to, but it's still, centered on what you really like to do, basically.